morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ. Happy Saturday, and today we've got a lot to be talking about with the weather. We've got some rainfall that's occurring across northeastern New South Wales and parts of southeastern Queensland, which is heavy. We've got some storms and tropical weather also on the forecast now up in far north Queensland and parts of the Northern Territory in WA. We're going to give the grand final forecast one last go before the big game at 2:30 Eastern Time. We'll also talk about some storms and some cold fronts expected for West Australia. So all of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Your support lately has been greatly appreciated. So we're looking at the picture now at New South Wales and southeastern Queensland. There are severe weather warnings currently in place for damaging winds extending up the coast from Coffs Harbour to about Brisbane, including the Gold Coast. It does exclude the immediate Brisbane coastline, however, and then inland towards the scenic rim and some of the higher elevations inland across the extreme northeast of New South Wales up here. And that's because we've got a low pressure system just sitting offshore at this time, and it's funneling a lot of rainfall ashore as well at this time. And you're probably wondering, this does look like a tropical cyclone. Why is this not a tropical cyclone threat? Well, it is considered a subtropical system. This has more in common with east coast lows than it does with other weather systems, and in fact you could almost call this an east coast low. It is a vigorous low pressure system off our east coast, funneling ashore some heavy rainfall and locally destructive winds. Now, what's got me very concerned is throughout the course of today, it's going to continue to wrap up and blow up some more convection. Convection is thunderstorm activity around the system's low pressure center, and you can already start to see it blow up on the latest satellite and radar imagery. There are some showers and thunderstorms now starting to blow up in the southern side, and these showers and storms here have some heavy rainfall inside, which will collide with the northeastern New South Wales coastline later on this afternoon. The rainfall there already starting to pick itself up quite dramatically again, on top of the rainfall that they've already had in the past 24 to 36 hours. In fact, peak accumulations outside of Coffs Harbour have already topped out at 165 millimetres over the past 24 hours, and already accumulations are starting to approach 200 millimetres over the past 48 hours, with about another 100, maybe 150 millimetres coming through out the course of today and into this afternoon. We're really seeing some heavy rainfall up here, and up to 300 millimetres is possible for locations between Coffs Harbour and Lismore. Let's break down the rainfall forecast for you now, hour by hour. So taking a look at the forecast right now, you can see that low pressure system just sitting very slow moving offshore, and it's funneling ashore those winds and rainfall. The winds we will get to in just a second. And over the coming couple of hours, we're going to be seeing rainfall accumulations between 10 and 30 millimetres per hour up on the northeastern New South Wales coastline. Some of these heavy falls will also make it into the southeast of Queensland, where up to 50 millimetres is expected around the scenic rim, the Gold Coast and Mount Tamborine sort of area. Now later on this afternoon and into early this evening, we're going to be seeing a burst of heavy rainfall fall between Kempsey up towards Grafton and Coffs Harbour, and that's where we're going to see some heavy falls up there later on tonight before the rainfall eases off very early tomorrow morning. We'll still see some showers and storms linger right through Sunday and into Sunday afternoon, but they will for the most part clear out by Sunday morning, and the heavy fall risk will definitely be done by early Sunday morning, by sunrise on Sunday. But yeah, we've definitely got sort of another 16 to 20 hours of heavy falls still possible between Kempsey, Coffs Harbour, Grafton up towards Lismore and the Gold Coast, on top of the rainfall that they have already received, which, as I have said, is already starting to build in places up to 200 millimetres. The rivers are still lagging behind this system. We'll take a look at soil moisture values up there right now. You can see basically any rainfall now from this weather event is going to become runoff with soil moisture values up above 100% now. So very high soil moisture values, which means a lot of rainfall is a very bad story now for this part of New South Wales and Queensland. It just does become runoff, as I have said. With more rainfall expected and those river levels now starting to rise rapidly, we could be seeing some minor to even moderate riverine flooding between Lismore and Grafton throughout the course of today. The rivers should peak by early tomorrow morning, and then they will start to come down, but with a little bit more rainfall expected today, I would not be surprised if flooding persisted into Sunday afternoon. So make sure you are staying safe around rivers and definitely staying safe around the ocean, which leads us very nicely on into the wind forecast. Like I said, East Coast low, you could almost get away with calling the system that. It is severe weather. This is some gnarly stuff here with winds up to 100 kilometres an hour around the system's core, which are only going to be increasing with showers and thunderstorms throughout the course of today. You can already see sustained winds along the New South Wales coastline averaging between 30 and 40 kilometres an hour and gusting up towards 60 or 70 kilometres an hour, with peak wind gusts up above 90 kilometres an hour now already being reported in mountainous and exposed coastal locations. Throughout the course of today, the wind threat will ease off and it will be pretty much gone by early tomorrow morning. In fact, all the gale force winds do dissipate by Sunday morning, and then we will get a return to some finer weather as a trough kind of builds in this system's place, but the waves in the ocean will remain rather dangerous right throughout the course of today into early tomorrow morning, with peak wave heights colliding with Coffs Harbour and locations between Coffs Harbour and Lismore expected to be up to about 6 metres. That's close to 20 feet. Certainly going to be some pretty rough water out there, and I advise against all boating and shore-based activities. Certainly not the day for it up in northern New South Wales and parts of Queensland. Now let's get on to rainfall accumulations and break down these numbers for you right now. So in the next 36 hours until midday Sunday, we are expecting peak rainfall accumulations on top of what has already fallen to be up above 110 millimetres or so. The heaviest falls should be between Coffs Harbour, Dorrigo and Ebor, which is kind of where the heaviest falls from a weather event like this typically do fall. Yamba could also receive some good falls from this weather event here or around Yamba at least, and then up towards Lismore and Nimbin, some of the mountains around there. We'll be seeing accumulations up towards 80 millimetres. Lismore today I'm expecting a further between 40 and 80 millimetres to fall. A pretty high scope of uncertainty, but it is a rather uncertain weather event considering we're talking about thunderstorms here. It is a tough forecast to make. Gold Coast between 20 and 40 millimetres, Brisbane between 20 and 50 millimetres, and then up on the Sunshine Coast anywhere between 10 and about 30 millimetres is possible. The heavier falls will be towards the south. Coffs Harbour somewhere between 50 and 120 millimetres is what I'm expecting to fall, and it will probably be on the higher side of that. Port Macquarie between 20 and 40 millimetres, Tyree between 10 and 20 millimetres, and then Newcastle, Sydney and further down the coast, only a couple of drops expected out there. And it's also worth noting that the rainfall isn't going to penetrate too far inland. You can see communities further inland such as Armidale and Tenterfield not expecting any sort of rainfall there. Same story for Strandthorpe, not really expecting any rainfall out there. Just a couple of drops possible from drizzly showers. And then certainly as you get further out into the northeastern parts of New South Wales, Moree, Inverell, that sort of area, the rainfall is non-existent over the next 36 hours at least. But yeah, certainly a very interesting system, and it is being fueled by some pretty warm sea surface temperatures as well. That's worth noting. 23, nearly 24 degrees offshore from Queensland. That is concerning for this time of the year. In our upcoming forecast, which is releasing on Tuesday for the wet season, 1st of October, it's going to be a comprehensive forecast. I have radically changed Queensland and New South Wales rainfall forecast, and it is being powered by these warm sea surface temperatures. I'm not going to give anything away, but you can bet your bottom dollar that the rainfall is now expected to be slightly heavier than what we were saying a couple of weeks ago. It is a concerning forecast. Now, before we head down to Victoria and talk about the big game later today, first of all, need to present it with Go Brisbane. Certainly going to be a great game, that's for sure. I'm stoked to watch it. It's going to be happening this afternoon. Bounce down at 2:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for those of you out of the loop. And we're going to talk about rainfall up in the far north of Queensland and the tropics in general. In fact, we have had a few showers overnight in the northern parts of the Northern Territory and parts of Western Australia. It is now starting to become pretty seasonable for this time of the year. The northern rainfall onset's just a couple of weeks away, realistically for the Northern Territory and Western Australia, when those rainfall accumulations really do start to pile on up there. And I bet you can feel it over in Darwin, just the unbearable humidity and the heat over there, 35 and 80% humidity. That's some tough stuff for them up there. So make sure you are staying cool and staying inside in the build-up. It is certainly some of the roughest weather that you'll get this year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, unless you get a major cyclone blow through. Again, we'll be talking about that later on this week into the Tuesday predictions video. Now, over in far north Queensland over the next 10 days, there really isn't too much in the way of rainfall expected, up to 25 millimetres for the Kasseroo Coast, which, to be frank, for far north Queensland, that can fall in 5 minutes. So we're really kind of stretching the amount of rainfall that we can talk about in one of these videos here, and it's pretty evenly spread over the next 5 days, the next 10 days as well. However, later on in the forecast period, we are starting to see thunderstorms and low pressure systems blow up over the Solomon Islands, and this is where we start to see these onshore flows start to build up. And if I had to make a guess, we're looking at Monday the 7th of October here. If I had to make a guess, I'm only going to say that we might be seeing some good rainfall, probably about 2 or 3 weeks on from next Monday or so. So we're going to keep a very close eye on things. But for those of you interested in the weather up in far north Queensland, I'd check back on these videos in about a week, maybe 2 weeks time, and I reckon I'll have something interesting to present in terms of heavy rainfall up in far north Queensland. Certainly something that's going to happen, I reckon, before November starts. It's going to be an early start this year. In terms of other tropical weather, there's just thunderstorms across the northern parts of Western Australia and the NT. Nothing out of the ordinary there for this time of the year. It is already starting, so we're going to head down south now and talk about Victoria and the game day weather for today, and it is a cracker of a forecast. It was a cold start this morning, down to 0. In fact, it was actually a little bit colder across some of the mountainous areas and some of the plains, but it's going to be a warm one today across the northwest of Victoria, going up to 25 for Mildura. Melbourne expecting a nice top of 20 degrees. It's going to be a beautiful day for the game, and you can see not a cloud in the sky, not a drop of rain on the forecast. It is going to be a pleasant forecast indeed. I believe the winds are also going to be relatively light. They will swing around from the north later on this afternoon, and they will actually get a little bit gusty later on this afternoon as well. By around 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, the winds blowing into Melbourne will be around 30 to 50 kilometres an hour in terms of wind gusts, so it will start to get a little bit gusty. Those winds will be quite fresh out of the north, but it's going to be a fine day, a cloud-free day as well. I mean, you can see Victoria, with the exception of some wispy clouds streaming in across the western part of the state, it is pretty much cloud-free. Absolutely fantastic to see, and it's not often we get weather like this time of the year over in Victoria and Tasmania, which is great to see. And I just need to say, let's go Brisbane. I'm very excited to watch this game, and I'm very excited to watch Brisbane hopefully wallop, but most likely just skim by Sydney. They are two very good teams indeed. Let's head over to Western Australia now and talk about some severe weather that's expected into the middle parts of next week. We actually had a pretty good helping of rainfall this week with some cold fronts, or a cold front moving through yesterday, bringing up to 30 millimetres of rain for some of the southwest, which is quite a lot for this time of the year. Later on in September, the rainfall normally completely dries up, and it has happened in spectacular fashion. I mean, it's been a really dry September for parts of the southwest, and we're now starting to see some pretty dry conditions unfold for parts of the wheat belt. But yeah, 30 millimetres of rainfall. My personal gauge over the past 48 hours has picked up 27.6, which is rainfall that I didn't really expect from this front here. And there is now more on the systems as well, on the forecast, I should say, with up to 50 millimetres expected for the Perth coastal regions sometime in the next 10 days. Now, let's break that down for you right now. So from Tuesday, we're going to see a cold front start to materialise on the rainfall forecast here. You can see it really starting to pick up steam on Tuesday afternoon, blowing through Wednesday morning into early afternoon. This one's going to be quite a severe one indeed, with potentially damaging winds up to 90 kilometres an hour expected for parts of the Perth coastal regions, and then down towards the southwest capes as well, and some isolated pockets of heavy rainfall, especially once it gets itself inland. Showers and storms expected to bring up to 25 millimetres of rainfall before Wednesday evening, so it's going to be quite a wet one indeed. And as this system sweeps across Western Australia, it's going to sweep through and basically burst up a whole lot of moisture across central parts of Western Australia through the Goldfields, the Gascoyne, and even into the Pilbara, and we will see a severe thunderstorm outbreak Wednesday afternoon in the northern Goldfields through the Gascoyne, most likely towards the east of Great Northern Highway, and then up into towards the Pilbara as well, up towards Karanjini and some of the mining communities up there. We're going to see an outbreak of severe thunderstorms, and they could be quite gnarly indeed. There's also going to be quite a lot of showers and potentially severe weather behind this weather system on Wednesday and Thursday, streaming up into the southwest of Western Australia. All in all, it's going to be a pretty violent weather front for this time of the year, early October, and hopefully the last violent weather front indeed for the year, because we're certainly starting to get used to this fine sunny weather, and I'm enjoying it. The thunderstorms will move out of Western Australia by Wednesday evening and into early Thursday morning, sweeping across South Australia, which then they could potentially be severe Thursday afternoon and evening, before moving into Victoria and New South Wales and providing some rainfall there late Friday and Saturday, the 4th and 5th of October respectively. But yeah, in terms of rainfall accumulations, certainly something now on the forecast for parts of the southwest of Western Australia. So from Wednesday morning onwards right through to Thursday evening, over that 48-hour period, some big accumulations are possible. Like I said, up to 60 millimetres for the Perth coastal region. Perth itself expecting about 50 millimetres on this forecast. I reckon that that's just a little bit bullish at this time. I reckon Perth will pick up about 25 to 30 millimetres. The hills could pick up a little bit more than that, maybe up towards 50 millimetres, and some of the southern suburbs as well could pick up some good accumulations. The northern suburbs as well, just with the nature of this cold front and how far north it's going to be moving, with the low pressure area blowing through some of the southwest capes itself, I am expecting the parts of the coast between Perth up towards Geraldton pick up to 50 millimetres of rainfall, so it certainly is going to be a wet one indeed. And then inland into the Goldfields and the interior region of Western Australia, some good rainfall also possible there from showers and thunderstorms, and potentially severe thunderstorms as well. It is going to be a fine day for thunderstorms into interior Western Australia. I mean, take a look at how much energy is going to be available for them. So yeah, definitely going to be an outbreak of severe thunderstorms at this time, I reckon, on the forecast. This is a pretty gnarly weather forecast to have actually for this time of the year, and certainly is raising concerns for what summer is going to be like, with a lot of energy now in the upper atmosphere for thunderstorms to make use of, and even the good chance of thunderstorms around the Perth metro area Wednesday, especially Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. It is going to be a pretty violent one indeed. So we'll keep a very close eye on things here. I think the Bureau of Meteorology will definitely raise severe weather warnings by Tuesday. It's going to be some severe weather for Perth. Just to finish off winter by the looks of things, winter's just going to swing in and give us one last punch, and it's going to be a pretty mean punch indeed for the southwest. So make sure you are ready for this weather system. It is going to be a gnarly one indeed. That basically does it for the weather forecast today. It's a complex one with a lot of moving parts, some rainfall over in New South Wales and Queensland, rain and storms in South Australia, fine weather for Victoria, and storms over in Western Australia now on the forecast. There's going to be more detail on that system over in Western Australia as the system draws closer. Could be one of the stronger cold fronts of the year. But yeah, that is all that I have time for today. Thank you so much for watching this video to this point, and enjoy the grand final today. It is going to be a cracker game. Whoever you support, it is going to be a good one. Make sure you do tune in. But yeah, that is all for me today. Thanks so much for watching. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. The names are on screen right now. I could not run this show without them, so the support is much appreciated. But that is all for me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.